A year ago, he was stationed in a different state, and I was 21. That meant we had to do things over long distances. It was planned that I would finish college, then go down to where he is stationed and find work there. A friend of mine who lives down there called me a few months ago and told me that my fiancé has been seeing someone else for months. He sent me pictures of her from Facebook. For my graduation, my fiancé was coming home for a few weeks. I thought now would be a good time to talk about this instead of calling you. I asked him when he got back. He didn't say no. He told me he loves me more than she does. He broke my heart. We've been together for years, and he did this. I asked him to back out of our plans and broke up with him. This is where religion comes in. I was taught that you shouldn't have sex before getting married, and he was the same. I know this seems strange to some, but it's how I was raised. When we first met, we talked about not having sex until we got married, and we both agreed to wait. So, he chose to get a girlfriend while he was down there to take care of himself. I told my parents about the breakup and the new plans after we got back together. After that, I called his family and talked to them. I talk to his family all the time because I help his sister, who is 16, when she has a problem or just wants to talk to someone who isn't her parents or a friend. When I called, they asked me to come over for dinner. He had just told them that we were fighting, so I went and told them what happened. Grandma was there, and she was mad. I used to play Mahjong with her once a week because I like to play, and no one else in her family does. Took back her grandson, and she told me she would make him make up with me if I did. Because she was mad, I didn't give it much thought. A few days later, he kept calling and texting me, and my phone was blown up. His grandmother is taking him out of the will if he doesn't get back together with me and marry me. I told him no because he hurt me and he can't change my mind. I'm not going to do that. It's great that his family is so wealthy and has a great business. That means he should take over when his grandmother goes. He won't get anything, though, if he is cut out. He even offered to pay me to marry him. When I talk to my friends, they think I'm the jerk and that I should forgive him and marry him just to get him back in the will. Because I'm mad right now, and this will make his life terrible. Think about him when he grows up. This is what a lot of my friends say. I'm beginning to think about it. How do you feel? Am I the jerk? Op would have been wrong to ask his grandma to stop seeing him, though. She didn't, though. What he did made her mad, so she cut him off. He made the bed, so he can now lie down in it. Op was only honest with people she thought of as family. He knew all the facts and how his family would feel about it. Now getting married to him would seem like getting married for his money. Let's check to see if everyone else agrees with me. C. Everett says, not the a-hole. All of your friends are a-holes who have zero regard for you as a human being. A spiritual ad states, not the a-hole. Cheating should be a huge deal breaker in any relationship because you're not only breaking someone's heart, you're also breaking the trust they had in you. Awkward impression, 72 states, not the a-hole, perfect example of F around and find out. Your ex is reaping what he sowed. He betrayed you, full stop. You have absolutely no obligation to him, let alone take him back. You have no control over what his grandma does with her will. Tell your friends to stuff it with the ruining his life BS. He did that all on his own. Growing up with my stepmom was awful. She was mean, angry, and had a sense of not being good enough. So she picked on everyone who was doing well, especially those who were doing better than her. My dad raised me across the street, and my mom was in and out of nursing homes until she died. Because she was the only person who could care for or watch over me, I spent a lot of time with her. I won't lie and say I was great, but I wasn't bad either. Good student who takes part in school and community events. I got a job as soon as I was able to. The thing that bothered me the most was that I often stuck up for her and her family, who are all awful to be around. I've known these people since I was 4 years old. Now that I'm in my late 20s, none of them were ever helpful or nice. My goals when I was younger were to become a psychologist, a teacher, a healer, or a veterinarian. I think I just liked the order that school gave me and wanted to keep it up after I graduated. But as soon as my stepmother gave me my license, she told me to leave the house. After less than a month, I left. Since it was his house, my dad did try to stop the eviction and be fair to him. A local police officer told us that she could actually kick me out of the house and file trespassing charges against me if I ever came back. But she was the main person living there. I still think he was probably lying, but didn't want to deal with it. I was 18 years old, had nowhere to live, and was expected to start college soon. I also picked a nearby school and turned down better scholarship offers so I could stay home and save money on rent. I moved in with a man who became my best friend, and I did try to go to school. But to be honest, it no longer felt right. I couldn't keep going because I had to work full-time just to get by and started having mental health problems afterward. I dropped out, my dad couldn't do much to help, and most of my family didn't want to get involved because she had persuaded most of them that I had decided to stay away from them. Every time she called, she would brag about how hard life is and say mean things about my dying mother. Then, if I came back home, she would offer sorrow and support. She would tell everyone at holiday dinners that I was the first psychologist she had ever seen working at McDonald's. I would be told off for not taking the joke seriously if I tried to defend myself. It made me feel bad. When I blocked her after a few years, she couldn't do anything about it. I did that. Things did get better in my life. I'm a pastry chef at a shop, adore and would love to buy one day if the owner would let me when he quits. That's not the life I had planned for myself, but I love the one I have with my fiancé and wouldn't give it for anything. I've been in touch with my dad and eventually his wife again over the past 2 years. He's still a dummy, and she's still a see you next Tuesday. But she's no longer picking on a little girl, so I'm going to bite her back. I've also been able to get in touch with my mom's family, who hadn't talked to her in decades before she died, and meet people who would have loved me if they had known I existed. While I don't spend much time with my dad's family, I finally have a family that I can talk about with my friends when they're making holiday plans, and that's all I want. Because of what I do for a job, I always brag a little when I'm with my family. And when asked, I've often made cakes that were just right for family members. There are now clear limits, and the first cousin who tried to push them was left without a cake for her son's birthday. Now, everyone respects those limits. Mom doesn't like my job. She doesn't like that I'm happy, that I don't mind that I'm a little fat, that I'm engaged, and that she can't be at the wedding. She doesn't like that I'm good at what I do. And no matter how hard she tries, she can only insult the fondant. Okay, that's okay. I don't like it either. I made a beautiful 3-tiered red velvet cake for my dad's birthday party last month, along with a cookie buffet and many other treats. I'm so grateful that my boss lets me use his industrial kitchen to make everything. Stepmom could only say, "Mine tasted like a box mix," on the big day. After 20 years of being mean, I was finally done trying. Everything I gave you was free because I worked on it for days. She said that my work and skills were like ducking Betty Crocker. No one should feel bad about baking with Betty or any other canned mix. But that's like saying that fast food is better than home cooking after having both. A complete slap in the face to all the hard work, hours, and years that went into making recipes better. At the start of February, she asked me to make her a cake for her 50th birthday. It was for 100 people, and she didn't want red velvet. That was all we knew. I concurred. I bought lots of Duncan Hines and icing in a can. The next day, I slapped the frosting on top of some bad sheet cakes and didn't bother decorating any of them. Stepmom was very angry. I ruined her birthday and made her look bad in front of her family and friends. What gave me the right to be so cruel? I just told her that she said my dad's party cake looked like Betty Crocker's, which means she likes easy cakes. I left soon after she began to cry. It turns out that she had planned to Instagram the party and count on me to take regular care of my desserts. Dad wasn't interested. He only said it would be best if I didn't hang out with her for a while and that we met up somewhere else, not at his house. I don't want to be around her ever again, and I hope that dry cake killed her family. Op did what she's always said about her skills. She has said bad things about Op's skills, but expected Op to make something amazing for her to show off. She hid and found out. Op did a great thing by giving her more than she asked for. The bald chawa says, "Burn." I hope the bee enjoyed her low-quality cake because that's what she deserved. Galadriel 60 states, "Your father is worse than she is in my opinion for allowing her to mistreat you. Well done for you raising yourself, and I always wanted to be an expert baker." Throwaway SS states, "It's good that your dad is willing to meet you without her. It would be better if you can make him understand that he needs to find a way to separate himself from her with regards to your relationship so that you can have one with him and not with her. Or he may find that he isn't going to have much of a relationship with you in the future because it's quite clear that you will be much better off having nothing to do with her ever again. May you have a long, happy, joyous life, and may she have eternal cat-butt face because of it." I loved my fiancé, Jack, who was 29 years old, but I found out that he loves his family so much that he's not ready to start his own. Since 2020, we've been together. He rents an apartment next door to his parents and lives with them. The door to his house is 2 steps away from there. I don't have a problem with that right now. I don't want that house to be our first home, though. He has lived alone in that house for about 3 years, and not just because of his parents. Right now, every night, 3 or 4 of his friends still come over and smoke in the house. I've given up trying to clean it because Jack isn't very good at it. I told him I didn't want to live there. We talked for a while, and now I'm not moving my things to his house after the wedding. I was going to stay with him often, but I wasn't going to move in for good. His lease was up in October, which was 5 months after the wedding. The owner said they no longer want to rent it. We were going to move somewhere else anyway. But I still told them I didn't want to live there. Now is the time. I don't want to surprise the owner if he changes his mind. That's what I wanted him to understand. He said he understood why I made my choice. We made this plan together, we talked, and then he told his mom, "I don't want to live next door to you, and I'm going to look for a new house." When she heard this, she got angry and said, "I was going to go back to our hometown after your wedding anyway. She won't be living next door to her mother-in-law after the wedding. I don't blame her." What worries me is that I feel like Jack and I are now our own family, and don't need to tell our parents about everything that's going on in our home. He doesn't get this. I told him that was not okay for him to say that to her. He told her he had to tell her. I told him that if he really thought she should know, he should have told her that we chose to do this together and that it was our choice. Now, he won't tell his mom that he agrees with this choice. He says it's his choice, and they'll make it together. That's because I don't mind living in this house with you. You're the one who doesn't want it. This made me worry that my new family wouldn't be able to handle things. I thought my fiancé and we were going to work together and not let anyone put us down. I think that when 2 people are married, they should hide each other's mistakes so that no one else can see who is at fault. He didn't stand by my side when I told his family about this before. I shut that down, but I think it will happen again, and I don't want that to happen. I told him yesterday that I was done trying to make him the kind of mate I would want. I agree with what he said about himself recently, and I don't want to marry that person. Am I really the jerk here? This is something I really want to know if my idea of family is wrong. Well, Mommy's boys can't really have their own families, and Op's mother-in-law would have always been involved in their problems and probably told him how to handle arguments. I agree with everything Op said here. Even though it hurts, Op made the right choice. At the end of the day, I think this will also be a good way for him to grow. Not the jerk, and good luck getting away. My husband really loves his mom, but she's great, so I'm lucky. She's wonderful. It would have been bad if there were problems with her. Don't give up. Stand up for yourself. You did the right thing, says, forget regret one day. I wish more women had your foresight. So much time and pain could be avoided if people looked at their potential partner, not just for who they are now, but how their upbringing and family ties will affect their marriage. It's a case of people showing you who they are and choosing to believe them, not hope and pray things will change, because they never do. I'm sure this wasn't easy for you, but you deserve a partner who stands next to you and with you, not one who can't make a move without family approval. I wish you all the best. Definitely not the a-hole. Jim and Dragon Pew Pew says, a 29-year-old who lives next to his parents and has only been out of the house for 3 years, presumably. But yeah, that sounds like a mama's boy refusing to grow up. If he can't grasp why he needed to stand with you after all this time, then he isn't going to make much of a husband. Note 1. There are comments about him being filthy and how I did accept it. Honestly, he made me get used to it in the first year of our relationship. I never accepted the behavior and tried to fix it. I openly told him that his house is not clean, but he told me it's clean to my standards. If you don't feel like it's not up to your standards, you can clean it yourself. I had no issues with cleaning his house. However, I was coming over every 3 to 4 days, staying 4 to 5 hours. 2 hours of it was going on the cleaning. I was kind of hoping he would see that and maybe take better care of his house so we would get to spend some more time. But that didn't happen. I accepted it. This was his way of living and his house. Since I was coming over to the same mess every time, at some point, I told him that I would not be cleaning any further, as it's his house. And he was not helping me to maintain it better. I even offered to call a cleaning lady once a week to clean his house, but he did not accept it either. Basically, in time, he made me get used to that. I did my best to accommodate myself without doing unnecessary cleaning when I come. Note 2. I see the comments related to me trying to change him, and it's not cool. You are right. I may have tendencies to try showing him different ways the way I prefer things. But as you can see in Note 1, even if it's disgusting to me, I was always ready to accept him as the way he is. Besides the cleaning and constantly having friends over, I didn't try to change anything about him. Me saying to him, I'm tired of trying to make him a husband that I would like to have, is because we experienced the situation with his family, with his sister to be exact, where he did not defend me at all once. And later on, a very similar experience where he didn't prioritize me but his mom, and threw me right under the bus in our decision. The first situation with his family happened in November. We spoke about it in December, and I told him it makes me feel like I'm nothing to him. I told him I want to break up. I told him that I don't accept my husband not prioritizing me. I didn't want to cut it right away. I asked if he would like to try going to couples counseling instead of cutting it completely. He agreed to it, but I think he did it to make me get used to it. He went just to shut my mouth and wait for me to accept his behavior of sharing everything about our relationship. Small update. I spoke to his friend to ask if he is doing okay. He told me that he didn't tell him anything about me yesterday, but he was constantly texting. This friend is very close to him, so if he is not speaking to him, I know he is discussing it with his sister.